So happy to be here at Storage Field Day 24, talking to you about the newest feature enhancements with Pure1 for Pure Storage. And we just talked about sustainability assessments within Pure1, so go check out that video. But then we're going to be talking about upgrades within Pure1 for your Purity Storage. So my name is Matt Bradford, Director of Technical Marketing here at Pure Storage for Digital Experience.
And I'm Stan Yanitskiy. I'm on the product management team in the Digital Experience business unit.
So really, from the beginning, Pure has offered white glove upgrade service, and customers are pretty happy with that, right? This is our de facto upgrade methodology where you sit down with support and find some time to work together, and we go through and we do these upgrades together. And scheduling, it's rather easy. I mean, we'll show you here in Pure1 how we can get that scheduled. But support works with you. We set obviously we've got the schedule time, but then we're also going to work with you beforehand and do some pre-flight checks before we do the upgrades. So let's jump into another demonstration here. I'll show you how easy it is to schedule these upgrades. We can do these from within Pure1. So if we go into the software lifecycle page here, all I have to do is go down. Of course, we can see all of our appliances, our entire fleet here. But if I just go down and click Schedule Upgrade, that's it. Right? I don't have to go into Support Portal or anything. It's all here within Pure1. And now we're going to upgrade Hooch. All right. So we're going to bring Hooch here, and I'm going to tell it what version do we want to upgrade to. So we're going to go from 6.15 to Purity 6.3.5. And then if I click on Schedule, let's do a Friday upgrade. Why not? We're going to do Friday at 9 a.m. And we're going to confirm this time here. So really, what it's doing is it's showing us the availability of support. So we can find time. It's not a whole lot of back and forth to try to schedule these things. So we have a 2-hour window here at 9 a.m. and we just go ahead and confirm. Then we can add other comments to this case when we open it, right? Because that's basically what we're doing on the back end. We're opening up a case with support. So if I want to say, hey, this is running my Epic Cache database, or add some other comments there for support, we can do that. And then just click the EULA, agree to the upgrade best practices and everything, right? And then just go ahead and click Request Upgrade, and that's it, right? Support will reach out to you and start going through some of those pre-flight checks. So let's talk about the new way of doing upgrades. And that the white glove service, again, works great. Customers love it. But it does come with that caveat of scheduling that time, right? So we want to let customers be able to do these upgrades whenever they want in a very similar type of fashion, right? So let's kind of talk through the steps of what that upgrade looks like.
Yeah, and I think the steps for the self-service upgrade are similar to the steps for an assisted upgrade. It's just you get to do them yourself, right? So first, you do a pre-check. That's just to make sure that your array is eligible to move to the version that you're looking to get to, right? So we want to make sure that you're within a single hop. We don't want you to get into a situation where you have to do multiple hops at a time in order to just take the least amount of time in this. So one at a time. Make sure that you don't you can go from any version to the target version without any kind of incompatibilities. So make sure that if you're running active cluster, active DR, any kind of replication, that the target array is on a compatible version. We don't want you to be able to break anything in your environment. And of course, we're going to check to make sure that all your hosts are configured properly, make sure that both controllers are receiving I/O from the hosts, so that we never get into a situation where the array itself takes a controller down and those paths are down for the host and it can't communicate with that. So the last thing we want to do is cause an outage during one of the upgrades. So that's the very first thing we do. Then you download the code. That's pretty straightforward. That happens on any download. And then we do a second pre-check on array with live data. So the first pre-check is based on the data that is being phoned home. That's phoned home on an hourly basis, and might be that upgrade readiness pre-check might be done a week in advance or a couple weeks in advance. We always want to make sure that we're running.
Letting your customers upgrade array firmware themselves?
Yes.
With no support people on site holding and watching blinking lights and
NetApp does that. It's not
turning switches and stuff like that?
It's NetApp done it for years. It's a big deal.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that there's nobody watching it. We still have our support team ready and watching whenever there are any alerts or anything coming in. They're going to jump on it and make sure that everything's kind of taken care of in case something does happen. And when I talk to customers about any kind of the upgrade features that we're working on, my comment to them is the same. This feature is not an upgrade feature. It's an error handling feature. It doesn't matter if upgrades proceed smoothly. That's the majority of the cases, and there's nothing to worry about in those cases. A successful upgrade feature, a successful upgrade capability is one that handles errors smoothly, properly, and does not cause outages if anything does happen, right? I don't think we ever want to kind of walk around, stick our heads in the sand and say, hey, there's 100% bug-free everything, right? We want to make sure that we handle any kind of situation that comes up through these upgrades in a way that the customer does not receive an outage, and that's the #1 mission for any of our upgrade steps, whether it's assisted or self-service. And I think the reason that we can get to self-service upgrades is because our assisted upgrades, we've been doing it for obviously quite a long time, just like everybody else. But we have that data that shows that these upgrades are as stable as they can possibly be. As Payal said, there are people that literally do these upgrades during lunch, right? There's no maintenance windows, there's no downtime that you need to take in order to do these upgrades. One of the biggest differences that we kind of really like to hang our hat on is that when we talk about availability numbers, that includes all planned downtime. And what that means is there is no planned downtime for Pure. You could run an upgrade whenever you want, and the expectation is that the array is up and running and serving I/O the whole time, right?
They'll still do it on the weekends.
They often do. But we also see, like Payal said, there's a new contingent of customers that are starting to trust the environment more and more, and in fact getting exceptions from their IT policies so that they can in fact run these upgrades during the day, so they don't have to take time at night or during the weekend out of their personal time to do these things. I don't know if, we were talking about 10 years ago, a lot of the older videos is from Pure is you get your nights and weekends back, and we want to make sure to keep going with that. And then finally, we run the upgrade, right? And we allow the customers to do that. Again, like I said, the support team is constantly monitoring the arrays. We're making sure that the I/O is still flowing properly, and if there's any errors, we want to make sure that customers can in fact roll back if anything does happen and stay in a healthy state.
So sticking with the number 4 here, there's a couple different principles that we adhere to when we're designing this. First of all is stability, right? Like you said, we've got a reputation for zero downtime upgrades. We don't want to put that on the line with this. There's also, you may be thinking like, why did Pure take so long to let me upgrade things myself? Well, because we spent years going through all of the support cases and all the support data that we have to build that pre-flight check and to make sure that this is as stable as we can possibly make it. Customers want this to be secure too. We want to be able to obviously know who is performing these upgrades and just not letting any old schlub off the street doing it, right? So we have step-up authentication to validate the identity of the person who's performing these upgrades. It's going to be simple, right? We've got white glove service. How do you compete with that? Well, automation. So we've got to automate every step of the way. We don't want customers to have to come up with their own pre-flight check. We don't want them to have to, scan through support sites trying to find the binaries, read through KB articles, or execute CLI commands on the arrays themselves. We want to make this as simple as possible, and we've done this within Pure1. And then reliable. It kind of sounds like the first one, right? But we're implementing automation, right? We want to make sure that this is reliable. Make sure that customers are confident in what we're building here. I mean, automation is kind of scary at first, and if you're doing storage automation, that's like that's double. So let's jump into the demonstration now, and we'll take a look at the self-service upgrades. We just showed you the scheduled upgrades within Pure1, and now again we're at the software lifecycle screen, same place we were before. And we've got just kind of a quick check on all of our different arrays. What we've got that's eligible for assisted upgrades, what's eligible for self-service upgrades, and then also, again, we love our honeycombs. Your storage, and this kind of shows us the entire fleet. So in this case, I've got I'm just ran a filter for all of my arrays with MM7, so that's why these two are have that black stroke around them. But we're showing what's on recommended versions, and then what are at moderate risk or greater risk of just being falling behind. So I think we'll upgrade this array here. It's not that far behind. It's on 633, but let's go ahead and upgrade this one to 635. So we've already got the target version selected here. Now the first step, like Stan said, we're going to do this check, and we're going to do a cloud check. So this is going to be using our telemetry data to just make sure that everything looks okay prior to the upgrade. So if we run this check, it'll take a couple of minutes, but once it's complete, then we can go and we can view the results over here, or we can just view the latest check results up here. And so we'll just kind of go through a little bit of what these checks are actually looking for. So, for example, like Stan said, we're looking at host IO and host paths. We want to make sure that, in this case, we don't have that many hosts for this array, but we want to make sure that, we've got more than one path back to the array. And there's actually a host here that may be idle because we're not seeing a whole lot of data, but we have seen it communicating across two paths here. And then just kind of look at compatibility, look at the hardware, make sure that everything is in a good state before we proceed on to the next step. So if we go into the software upgrade, we can say, okay, again, our target version is 635 that we want to go to. So we just click on next. And on the right-hand side, we've got this sort of checklist of the entire process, right? So we do that configuration, we tell it what version we want to go to, do the readiness check. Next, we get to download the bundle, right? We install it on the secondary controller. We fail things over, install it on the new secondary controller. And we do some checks in the middle there, make sure everything's okay before we complete. So I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge this. And I just got a code here. It is 12345.
No way.
I know, same combination as my luggage.
Had to be random, I thought.
Right.
Same one you got last time, imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. So, here we're doing the download. Again, we don't have to go find those binaries. We don't have to, SEP them to the array or do anything like that. We're just sending this directly to the array. The binaries have been downloaded now, and we can go ahead and we can initiate the upgrade. So first things first, right? We've done the check with our telemetry data, but that's not really up to the second data that we want to be doing a check. So we want to be extra careful here. So we're going to run another check on the array with just the absolute latest data, make sure that everything is okay. So we're going to go ahead and begin the on-array health checks. And while this is going, this will take a couple of minutes as well. And look at that, it's done, right? So we've got the checks are complete. We're now upgrading the secondary array, or secondary controller rather. And so once that is complete, once it's gone through, done the entire upgrade, it's now asking for an action. We obviously don't want to just kick this off and go to lunch, especially if we're doing controller failovers. So we're just going to go ahead and click on action required. And then we can continue with the upgrade and continue with that failover to the new, what is now the primary. We're going to fail over to the secondary. So with that, right, before we do that failover, we're going to do another check and just make sure everything is okay on that secondary controller. We've installed the software, we've rebooted. We want to make sure that everything is okay. And if we want to, we can go ahead and view that report. So now we're failing over to the new primary controller. And once that controller reboots, the installation is complete, right? But wait, there's more. We still have to do another check. So we're just going to do some final upgrade checks here on the new secondary controller. And with that, the upgrade is complete. So this is going to generate a report, right, as soon as we're finished with that. And again, as you can see throughout the entire process, you can view the reports. But in this case, I'm going to go check the report. Again, looks very similar to the original report that we ran, just making sure that everything looks healthy. And with that, we can finish the upgrade and we can save this upgrade log if we want to. And with that, the appliance is up to date. So that was it. That's the entire demo. We've upgraded an array.
A couple things that I wanted to mention is, so when you're looking at this tool itself is not just for the upgrades themselves, right? It's for the entire ecosystem around upgrades and the information that you need around it, right? So what you can see here is the arrays that are running what version, and you can see that some of the versions are at moderate risk. That's another feature of this entire software lifecycle portfolio is letting you know that you're running a version that could potentially put you at risk for an outage, a bug, something like that. And then also seeing the actual appliances by storage version that you're running in your environment, making sure that all of your arrays are running at the most stable version and that there's not too many different versions running in your environment. So just that information allows you to keep track of your environment, make sure that you're running in a good state, keeping your environment as stable as possible. So that's kind of a main thing, right? Because to your point, not everybody's going to be comfortable just going in and running an upgrade just whenever. A lot of customers are still going to want to maintain the white glove service and scheduling things, but this has a number of benefits for the customers that are willing and able to do these things and would prefer to do these things themselves. That reduces the load on support, and they can focus more on the customers that would prefer to have that white glove experience. So it's actually kind of a win-win in a lot of cases, right? So the customers that want to do it themselves, get to do it on their own time. And the customers that still want the white glove service get more support people by definition, right? So, and like I said, the software lifecycle allows you to get to better information, right? So we, on the kind of note of transparency, we want to expose more and more information about these releases. We're building out recommendations on which release you should be going to and making more precise recommendations. So today, you'll have a range of recommendations. These are the green releases, they're good, but we're going to continue improving that, continue giving customers the information they need in order to make the right decision for their own environment, right? So lots of really good stuff coming through the self-service upgrades program that ultimately kind of boils it up to, I don't know, boils it up. I don't know what that is. Okay, I guess
Up to
boils up.
future
Yeah.
upgrades. Yeah.
Anyway, software lifecycle. The whole thing is bringing value to customers that are willing to do these upgrades themselves, as well as customers that are maybe not interested. And I truly believe that as we've seen more and more customers more comfortable running upgrades during the day, getting away from these nights and weekends type upgrades, we're going to see more and more customers eventually moving into this world where they're doing their own upgrades, and they're going to be comfortable. They're going to get to the point where they would prefer to do the upgrade on their own time rather than spending time scheduling things and making sure to get into the proper maintenance windows and everything. It just makes the whole thing a lot easier.
Are there situations where you would not use the automated upgrades, like maybe like if you have active sync and active replication go to someplace else? Are there any sort of permutations of architecture where this doesn't apply today?
Yes, today we do not support Active Cluster, but it is something that we're working on. So we consider it a feature to be able to support Active Cluster. And then once you have arrays that are running in this Active Cluster pair or even an Active Cluster plus replication and all those other scenarios, those are features in the list of our roadmap. And so eventually you will be able to support that.
Do you actually, are there cases in any of those checks that you have that would basically say you really need to call support to
Yes,
this upgrade?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're running Active Cluster right now, it would say you can't do it right now. Please schedule a support time to do the upgrade.
Okay. And since we're talking about support, how often does support get called after somebody's tried to do their own self-service upgrade?
I think this feature is relatively new, right? So it's only been out for, I think, about 2 quarters. Is that right? July.
Okay.
So
So you don't have
coming up on 2 quarters. So we don't have a whole lot of data to kind of lean back on. But I do know that we have had a large number of successful upgrades. I know a couple of our customers that are early adopters of this have started just using it for everything all the time. And they're pretty successful with it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I presume you could actually, because I was looking there on your self-service upgrade chart there, you've got canceled upgrades. So in theory, you could kind of use this as a dry run of the upgrade process, and just in case you missed anything that's not humanly obvious,
That's right.
much of which isn't.
Yeah, and I mean with those pre-flight checks too, right? Customers are doing it like a day or two beforehand, and I mean we recommend you perform the upgrade within 48 hours or run a new check
Right.
But yeah, we've got a number of customers that are doing that just to make sure that they're in good shape.
Yeah, there's obviously a point of no return once you get to a point you cannot
Sure.
cancel it anymore, but at every possible state before you get to that point of no return, which is essentially upgrading that second controller, you can't go back anymore. But up until that point, you are able to cancel. The system will revert back to its original state pre any kind of upgrades, and then we want to make sure that you can gracefully back out as many opportunities as possible.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
You guys have any stats on how quickly your customers are upgrading to the latest version of software? Like, does it take a quarter for a release to roll out to 80% of your arrays or anything like that?
Yes, we do have stats, although I'm not 100% sure that we can make them publicly
So,
available.
so you don't publish like to your customers how many people, not which one, but like other companies in your space will say, here's how many people are on these different releases. So you can see, are you the guinea pig or are you the?
Yeah, exactly. This is something
And
that
also for bug hunting too.
yeah, we have had the request. Right now, I believe the stance is that we're not publishing it, but we are working with the teams that are involved in that process to see what kind of information, because that's critical when deciding on what version you're running on. And I do think we have general information. So for example, we tell you what the field qualification and the release status is. So we have your standard release and long life release. Long life releases are supported for longer periods of time. And then we have a field qualification of general availability, which is when the release comes out, and enterprise ready, which is as the release has been in the field for a certain amount of time and has passed a bar or threshold for mean time between events. Only then will it become enterprise ready. And then, so we could use those as kind of a gauge, but we don't release the specific numbers for those metrics. So just kind of high level, long life release versus regular release, and general availability versus enterprise ready.
And I mean, that's also largely a factor of how a customer is going to do it. Lots of times customers will upgrade dev systems a quarter or so before they even think about upgrading production systems.
That's right, yeah. And I mean, I think this is just the first step, right? We're allowing customers to upgrade arrays, and I think you can let your imagination go wild. The roadmap for this is pretty interesting. So I think once we're done with this, if we want to have a chat, I think there's a lot of stuff we can talk about. But if anybody's interested in seeing where else we're going with this,
This applies to flash array. Does it apply to flash blade as well, or?
it does apply to flash array. It does not apply to FlashBlade yet. FlashBlade does not support Pure1 Edge services, and so we do have a roadmap to get them kind of to parity, but that's gonna.
There are multiple versions of flash array, X, C, probably one other one I can't remember.
Yeah, technically Cloud Block Store can fall into the category of flash array, and as well as flash array XL. The flash array X, C, and XL all run Purity, and so this is all supported with CBS and FlashBlade. We are working on getting those support as time goes on.
I'm not sure if it's been brought up before, but rollback.
Yeah.
We bring it up?
A little bit. I mentioned it. So there's a point of no return as you start upgrading the second controller. Before that, you were able to fully roll.
If you, let's say you're done
Yes.
and you find some bug and you want to go back.
We do not support that, just in general.
Not as a self-service.
Correct.
wait,
We
But
do
you
not
do it
support
through
that.
web of
At all.
Correct.
At all.
At all.
That's right, yeah.
So tying these two topics together, if you actually do require support, do you encourage your customers to use like phone support rather than in-person support?
Yeah, so we generally, we have the ability to open a support case here. We certainly allow you to call and you can talk to somebody. In terms of in-person support, I typically don't, I think we don't typically do that much except for with hardware replacement type stuff.
Okay, I was thinking just in terms of the energy portions that you were talking about in the first half of the talk.
Yeah.
Doing things by phone is going to be far more energy efficient than sending somebody in person.
Yeah, yeah. We typically do not send people in person unless it's absolutely necessary. And one thing I did just kind of remember, so on the situation where you might be on a version and you do not want to upgrade, we also have the ability to apply security patches. And so security patches are also rolled into this, and it's not a Purity upgrade. It does apply. So for example, Log4j was the big one. I don't remember if it was early this year or late last year at this point anymore, but it was big. Everybody had it, and we rolled out a security patch that we managed to get out to a lot of our customers very quickly using basically a preliminary version of this tool. So we got our customers into a very healthy state. And I think if we ever get into a situation where there's a Purity release that's the latest and it ends up having a critical bug, then we do have the opportunity to apply a security patch to that array in order to get to a healthy state.